Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Blue Jacket with another video. This is the part 3 session for marine refrigeration system. Earlier in the part 2 session, we have experienced on the actual refrigeration system that is used on board ship and a basic view on the components that are used in that system and the flow of refrigerant in that marine system. Today in this part 3 session, we will be experiencing on the types of refrigeration compressors and the Carnot cycle, reverse Carnot cycle and reverse Carnot cycle in correlation with the refrigeration cycle. Now let us start with the refrigeration compressor types. Basically, there are 4 types of refrigeration compressor: reciprocating, rotary vane, screw type, and a scroll type. This reciprocating and screw type are high capacity compressors that are actually used on board ship, whereas the rotary vane and a scroll type compressor, it is not such high type. They are the household compressors for used in the refrigerating system. Here I have given the material composition for reciprocating type of compressor, where the piston is made up of aluminum alloy, cylinder, cast iron, delivery and suction valves for stainless steel nickel chromium blade type, and for crankshaft, spheroidal graphite cast iron. Let us recap about the purpose of refrigeration compressor. The sole purpose of the refrigeration compressor is to raise the saturation temperature and the saturation pressure of a refrigerant so that it can be cooled by the condenser for changing its phase from gaseous to liquid. Working of a refrigeration compressor. Here in the diagram you can see 2 strokes, intake stroke and exhaust stroke. Due to the low pressure that is generated inside the cylinder of a reciprocating compressor, the refrigerant is drawn into the cylinder and the piston is driven by the external force, either by the electrically connected motor which is well driven. Due to this external force, the piston starts compressing the refrigerant. When the refrigerant raised above the saturation pressure, the delivery valve gets opened and delivers the refrigerant to the condenser. Let us know about some basic definitions that are actually used in this system. Piston displacement or the compressor capacity. Piston displacement is nothing but the actual volume swept by the piston. Here you can see from TDC top dead center to BDC bottom dead center, it is the volume that's swept by the piston in one stroke inside the cylinder. That is known as the piston displacement. Compression ratio. It is the ratio of suction pressure of the refrigerant to the discharge pressure of the refrigerant. Previously I have mentioned, due to the low pressure, the refrigerant that is taken into the cylinder and by the work done externally by the piston, the refrigerant gets compressed and generating the saturation temperature and saturation pressure. Due to this higher saturation and temperature pressure, the refrigerant is forced out to the condenser. Here, suppose let us say the intake pressure of refrigerant may be at 1 bar and the exhaust stroke of the refrigerant may be at 15 bar. The difference between this exhaust and intake ratio is known as a compression ratio. Volumetric efficiency. It is the ratio of actual volume of the refrigerant drawn into the compressor and theoretical volume of refrigerant drawn into the compressor. Every system is initially that is compared to the ideal working of that system. Ideal working of the system, it implies system that which is having no losses, where in actual it doesn't work like that. Every system is either frictional losses or thermodynamic losses or mechanical losses. The difference between these losses and the actual ideal working of the system is the volumetric efficiency. Here in the temperature and entropy diagram or the reverse Carnot cycle has its best academic advantages for better understanding of marine refrigeration cycle. But before proceeding to it, let us know about the actual Carnot cycle, and this is the actual Carnot cycle. The Carnot cycle is a thermodynamic cycle known for its best possible efficiency. It uses the available heat energy to produce useful reversible adiabatic, isotropic and other processes. Here in the graph you can observe that the graph is mentioned in between PV graph and temperature and entropy graph. Process 1 to 2. It is a reversible isothermal process. During this process, the heat is taken into the system where the gas undergoes expansion, increasing the volume by reducing the pressure. But temperature is maintaining constant during this process 1 to 2 and process 2 to 3, where the gas undergoes further expansion in keeping the pressure constant but reducing in temperature. Here you can see process 2 to 3, the temperature is reduced from temperature high to temperature low. Process 3 to 4. In this process, it is an isothermal compression process where there is no loss of heat in ideal conditions. Here you can see process 3 to 4. The temperature is maintained constant, increasing the pressure. But according to the first law of thermodynamics, whenever external work done on the system, it needs to increase the pressure in relation with the temperature. It increasing the temperature, and that increased temperature has to be flown to from high temperature region to low temperature region. At this process, the heat is extracted out from the system. And process 4 and 1, it is a reversible adiabatic process, which is a constant volume but increasing pressure. And here in the temperature and entropy graph, during this 4 and 1 process, you can see temperature is raised from TL to T high. And this is a vapor compression or refrigeration cycle. Now let us correlate this vapor compression or refrigeration cycle with actual Carnot cycle. Here in the Carnot cycle, we have seen that from process 1 to 2, which is reversible isothermal expansion process. During this process, the heat is taken into the system where the gas gets expanded, maintaining the temperature constant but reduction in the pressure. In the process 2 to 3, it is a reversible adiabatic process. In this process, the gas keeps on expanding but reduction in the temperature. Here the temperature falls from T high to T low. In the process 3 to 4, it is a reversible isothermal compression process where the temperature is maintained constant but increasing the pressure. And process 4-1, it is a reversible adiabatic process. Now let us look into the actual refrigeration cycle. Here I have shown you the basic components of refrigeration cycle: compressor, condenser, and receiver, expansion valve, evaporator, and again back to the compressor. This is the flow of refrigerant in the system. And in between, I have shown you the pressure and the enthalpy graph. In the enthalpy graph, the process C2E, it is a reversible adiabatic or isentropic compression of refrigerant process. And process E2A, it is a reversible constant pressure heat rejection process. During this process, the raised saturation temperature and saturation pressure by compressor that is cooled in the condenser, which is provided with either seawater or fresh water in the marine refrigeration system. In this process, the heat is extracted by this seawater or the fresh water in this process, and the process A to B. During this process, the compressor is passed to expansion valve, where in the expansion valve a pressure drop occurs. Due to this pressure drop, the liquid refrigerant that issued from the condenser starts boiling at low pressure. And after the expansion valve, the liquid refrigerant is a partial mixture of liquid plus vapor, and that is sent to the evaporator, which is the process from B to C. It is a reversible heat rejection process which is done at constant pressure. In this process, the heat is taken from the surrounding atmosphere of the evaporator. That means the evaporator is located inside one room. Let us say it's located inside a fridge. When the refrigerant is received by the evaporator, this refrigerant, which is a mixture of liquid plus vapor, due to the high amount of heat present in the evaporator room, that heat is taken from the evaporator room and passed to the refrigerant, which is a mixture of liquid plus vapor. We all know that according to the first law of thermodynamics, temperature always flows from higher temperature to lower temperature region. Here, the evaporator room is at higher temperature region, whereas the liquid plus vapor mixture refrigerant is at low temperature region, so that the temperature is flown from higher temperature to low temperature region. That means the mixture of refrigerant is taking the heat away from the evaporator room, raising the refrigerant temperature, converting it from partial liquid plus vapor to completely gaseous state, and after this it is again sent to the compressor for next suction stroke, and this cycle repeats till the evaporator temperature achieved up to the set point temperature. This you can see it on the graph. Again I am repeating, here from C to E, it is a reversible isentropic compression of refrigerant, where the compressor is raising the refrigerant temperature from saturation to above the saturation temperature and saturation pressure, and E2A, it is a constant pressure heat rejection process. In the constant pressure heat rejection process, the raised saturation temperature of the refrigerant is cooled by the seawater or the fresh water provided in the condenser. And process A to B, it is a throttling process by the expansion valve. In the expansion valve, there will be a pressure drop. Due to this pressure drop, at low pressure, the liquid refrigerant starts boiling. When the liquid refrigerant started boiling, at the outlet of the expansion valve, we will be receiving a mixture of liquid plus vapor refrigerant. This mixture is sent to the evaporator. That process, you can see it on the B and C. In B and C, it is a constant pressure heat rejection process. In this heat rejection process, when the evaporator received a mixture of liquid plus vapor refrigerant, this evaporator tries to take the heat from the surrounding atmosphere of the evaporator. That means the surrounding atmosphere, let us say it is a fridge. The fridge is at higher temperature and the mixture of refrigerant is at lower temperature. According to the first law of thermodynamics, temperature always flows from higher temperature region to lower temperature region, so that it is taking away the heat from the evaporator room, raising the refrigerant temperature and changing its phase from liquid to gaseous, and sends it back to the compressor for next suction stroke. I think now you have understood the actual refrigeration cycle. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, and still if you have any doubts, do comment in the comment section below. Now once again, let us see this on the actual refrigeration cycle. I have told that process 1 to 2, it is a compression process where the work done by the compressor. During this process, the refrigerant raised its saturation pressure and saturation temperature. And process 2 to 3, where the heat rejection process at constant pressure. The heat is taken by the condenser with the help of the seawater or the fresh water. After that, the process 3 to 4, it is an expansion. Expansion that happens in the expansion valve due to the pressure drop. The liquid starts boiling. Then at process 4-1, after the evaporator receiving this mixture of liquid plus vapor refrigerant, it starts taking the higher temperature from the surrounding atmosphere of the evaporator. Here you can see the process 2 to 3, heat is rejected, and in the process 4 and 4, heat is taken by the evaporator. Here in the process 4 and 1, the amount of heat that is taken by the evaporator from the evaporator room, that is known as the refrigerant load. The refrigerant load is nothing but the amount of heat that is taken during the entire process from 4 and 1, which is nothing but a refrigerating effect. To increase this effect, we need to increase the refrigerant temperature. That means we need to superheat the refrigerant. Here in the process 1 to 1 dash, we can observe that the refrigerant is superheated. That means an external heat is provided for the refrigerant. If in case of after the evaporation process, if in case there is any water traces present, that is turned into the vapor by the presence of external heat. This increases the refrigerating effect. This superheat increases the refrigerating effect furthermore. And now the process is the same. And now from 1 dash to 2 dash, the work is done by the compressor and increasing the refrigerant saturation temperature and saturation pressure. And from 2 dash to 3 dash, the heat is rejected again in the condenser with the help of the either seawater or fresh water. Since here the superheat is present, the refrigerant by the end of the compression, it will be heated more. That heat that needs to be rejected. If in case that amount of heat is not rejected by the condenser, and that is rejected by some external force, and that process is known as subcooling. Previously I have mentioned that subcooling is a process of cooling the refrigerant lower than its saturation temperature. The saturation temperature, you can see it on the graph. This is a temperature graph, and this is a saturation line, saturated liquid line, and this is a saturated vapor line. And in the condenser, after a phase change, the gaseous refrigerant is turned into the liquid and reaches to the point number 3. Due to the presence of superheat at 2 dash, it needs to reduce further temperature to 3 dash, which is subcooling. Due to the subcooling, the expansion will happen efficiently, increasing the refrigerating effect from 4 dash to 1 dash. Further efficiency of refrigeration is improved. This ends the part 3 session of marine refrigeration system. Still any more doubts, do comment in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.